Okay, so for part 2, we're going to be using the box tool and the round roof tool. Right now, we're actually not going to worry about the round roof, but we will be using that here in a bit. But for this, to make it simpler, we're just going to use the box tool for now. So, we're going to go here, and again, it's the same exact measurement tools that we're going to need that we already know. So it shouldn't be something new because we just did it in part 1. However, the measurements are going to be different. So the length for this, we need it to be 570 millimeters. The width of it, we're going to need that to be 30. And then the height is going to be a 15th. Now, here's a new thing that we are going to be learning. In this one, we made it so that it was just flat to the work plane. So if we look at it, they're just sitting on top of the work plane. However, if we zoom in on this red piece, we see that there's this 0.00. What we need for this is so this one part right here determines how far off it is from the work plane. So like if we change it to 30, it's 30 millimeters up. What we need it to be though is 15 millimeters so that it can sit right in the center. We go up here, see the top view, and we're gonna click on this again, and we need the entire thing to be right there on the x-axis as we had discussed. And if we talk about like the y-axis of this, it needs to be 100 millimeters away from the circle. So now we have this, and to make our lives easier, like you can look around and you see that the red is like kind of hidden. So if we wanted to work with it again, which we do, it's gonna be difficult since the yellow piece is there. So what we're gonna do is click on the yellow piece and go up here to the top right, and you can see this little light bulb under what it says shape, where we had to pick the colors and everything. So we're gonna click that light bulb, and it gets rid of it. It doesn't get rid of it, it just like hides it so that you don't have to see it and make it difficult to work with. Now the other thing we need to do in this step is get the round roof out that we had said we were gonna work with. And look at the dimensioning tools now. Again, you can go ahead and mess around with this just to see what all of them do if you want to. So you can see how and observe like the measurements of everything. What we want this length to be is going to be 30, so make sure it's the long piece and not like the short piece. So long piece is going to be 30 right here. This part right here, that has to do with the flat part. So this here had to do with the curve. This has to do more with the flat, like semicircle. That is going to be 15 millimeters. So if we just edit that to be 15, and then we have this part right here. So this, if we were to move that, pretty sure it's this one, you see it just gets longer and longer. What we want it to be for this is going to be half of 15. So that's just going to be 7.5. Think of it as a radius. So half of 15, which is the diameter. So here we have what we need it to look like. However, this bottom part right here that's flat to the work plane, we need that to be cohesive with this edge right here. In order to do that, there's some rotating parts on the piece. So you see it brings up like a little clock type of thing. So we have it here, and we have one that's on the ground as well. So right now we need to move this one, and you can either click and drag, so that would look something like that, or we need it to be 90 degrees. So if we just hit that, go up here, hit 90, it does it for us. And another thing that we have to do, so we rotated it one way. What we need to do is this ground piece right here, we need to get that one to be negative 90 degrees. So now we have something that could potentially be flat with this. The only thing is, if you see here, it says negative 375. So what that means is that if we were to look up a front view of this, the work plane is this dark line right here. It is actually negative 3.75 millimeters under. So part of it is going under the work plane. We don't want that. We want it to have a height of 15, just how it was right here. So if we are able to view it, should look something like this for now, because we haven't given it measurements in relations to the ruler, because the ruler is really important in this whole thing in order for it to be how it's supposed to be and how it should work. So we want it to be, instead of this 86, again, this one's always going to be 0 for this project, and what we want this to be, this length right here, that is going to be 92.5 in order for it to sit so that it is touching, so that the edges are touching here. And the red and the blue, they're touching, there's no space, no matter how zoomed in a lot, but no matter how much you zoom in, there's not going to be a gap right there. So that creates, if we were to take a look at it, that creates this, oh yeah, this part right here, that's right there, that's what it's creating. It's that. So, but on this part, you can see that there's two of those, like type of round roof shapes. So we need to make another one, and so we don't have to do the dimensions of it again. We can just simply click on the round roof, so on the blue one. And up here in the upper left, there's a duplicate and repeat. You're just gonna hit duplicate, and it duplicates right on top. So if you just drag it out, then we can move that to its relative location. So you can either move it or again use the dimension tools. But before we use the dimension tools, we have to rotate it because this is facing the same edge. We need it to face the other edge, which is like flipped around. So in order to do that, we have this one right here. We just need to make it do a 180 turn, and bam, it's facing the edge that we need it to face, which is this one. Go here, this 80, it has to be 0 again. And this right here, remember, we have to account for all the measurements right here that we did before. So this actually ends up being, if I can remember correctly, 677.5 millimeters. Is it? Sorry, it ends up being 670 because from this origin point to the edge was 100 plus the length of this was 570. So if you add that up together, it makes 670 millimeters. We take a look at the left side, and here we could see that these are touching as well. So you probably think that, oh, we're done with this part. No, we're actually not. The next step would be to select it all, so I could just hit Control A on my keyboard, and then you group all of these together so it makes it one piece. So now if I select it, it's just one piece instead of 3 pieces that it originally was. And up here we have 2 different things that it could be. It could be a solid or it could be a hole. And in here it's a hole that goes through the rectangle. So we're going to change that to hole, and then we're going to hit the little light bulb button. So you can see in relation to the piece that we made in part 1, it is in the middle of it. However, it is not cut through. It is still there. So to make it have that effect, you just hit Control A, and you have to group them together, just how we did in the previous part where you grouped it. You had to group those 2 pieces, and there you have that slit.